At some point, something shifts. It's not dramatic, it doesn't announce itself. One day you're fine, and then slowly, or sometimes all at once, a person starts taking up space in your mind that wasn't there before. You notice when they're in the room. You replay conversations that didn't seem important at the time. You find yourself thinking about them at moments that have nothing to do with them. And the strangest part is that it doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like something that's happening to you. That's because it is. Falling in love is one of the most well-documented psychological and neurological experiences humans go through, and most people have no idea what's actually happening beneath the surface when it hits. This is what it actually feels like, and why. The first thing that happens when you start falling for someone isn't emotional, it's chemical. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, floods the system every time you think about them, see them, or hear from them. The same chemical responsible for the pleasure of eating, achieving, creating. Suddenly, it's attached to a person. This is why early love feels addictive, because neurologically it is. The brain starts treating that person like a reward, and like any reward, it wants more. More contact, more closeness, more information about them. At the same time, serotonin levels drop. Serotonin is partly responsible for feelings of contentment and stability. Lower serotonin creates a mild state of preoccupation, which is why you can't stop thinking about them even when you're trying to focus on something else. Your brain has essentially been hijacked, not by the person, by your own neurochemistry responding to them. One of the most distinctive features of early love is selective attention. The world doesn't actually change, but your perception of it does. Things that would normally pull your attention, work, other people, plans, start to feel slightly less vivid. Meanwhile, anything connected to this person becomes sharper, more significant. A song they mentioned, a place they like, a mannerism you noticed weeks ago that suddenly keeps surfacing. Psychologists sometimes call this intrusive thinking, not because it's harmful, but because it arrives uninvited and repeatedly. You're not choosing to think about them, your brain is choosing for you. This narrowing of attention is the nervous system's way of prioritizing a potentially significant bond. Evolution decided that connection mattered enough to redirect cognitive resources toward it, which would be useful if it didn't also make you significantly less productive. Here's one that doesn't get talked about enough. Falling in love temporarily destabilizes your sense of self. Not in a dramatic way, but research by psychologist Arthur Aaron found that people in the early stages of love show measurable changes in their self-concept. They start to incorporate the other person's traits, interests, and perspectives into how they see themselves. You start caring about things you didn't care about before because they care about them. You find yourself curious about their world in a way that bleeds into your own. This is partly why falling for someone can feel simultaneously exhilarating and unsettling. You're not just experiencing a new relationship, you're experiencing a subtle shift in who you are, and that's disorienting even when it feels good. Nobody talks about this enough either. Real falling in love, not infatuation, not surface attraction, but the kind that actually means something, almost always arrives with fear. Not fear of the person, fear of what caring about them means. Because the moment someone matters, loss becomes possible, and the deeper the feeling, the higher the stakes. This is why some people self-sabotage at exactly the moment something good is developing, why others pull back right when things start to feel real, why the impulse to protect yourself intensifies precisely when you'd most benefit from staying open. The fear isn't a sign something is wrong, it's a sign something is real. The nervous system doesn't panic over things that don't matter. Two things happen to time when you're falling in love simultaneously, and they contradict each other. Time with them passes too fast. Conversations that felt like 20 minutes were 2 hours. You leave and feel like you barely got to say what you wanted to say. Time without them slows down. The gap between seeing them and seeing them again develops a weight. You become acutely aware of their absence in a way you weren't aware of it before they existed in your life. This distortion is well documented in psychological research on romantic attachment. The person becomes a temporal anchor, someone around whom your experience of time organizes itself. That's not poetic exaggeration, it's a measurable shift in how the brain processes duration when an attachment figure is involved. Here's the part that most people feel but rarely articulate. Falling in love asks you to be seen, and being seen, genuinely seen, not performed for, requires a kind of courage that has nothing to do with grand gestures. It requires showing up as yourself when yourself feels inadequate, saying something real when something safe was available, staying present when pulling back would be easier. The neurochemistry creates the feeling, but what you do with that feeling, whether you let it become something or protect yourself out of it, is where character comes in. Most people fall in love multiple times. Far fewer let themselves be loved back, not because the opportunity doesn't arise, but because being loved requires a vulnerability that feeling love doesn't demand. That's the part nobody tells you. The feeling is the easy part. What comes after it is where it gets real. Falling in love isn't random. It's not magic. It's your brain, your nervous system, and your history all responding to one person at the same time. Understanding what's happening doesn't make it less beautiful. It just means you can stop being confused by it.